Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our truly international talk show where we meet and talk to authors all over the world. Not just authors, but publishers, people who help people get their book published, editors, people who do the covers. There's so much, I'm learning, there's so much that goes into a book, which many of us, we're just still writing. We can't put that pencil down and say we're done. We have literally millions of people out there that have written a book, but they haven't finished and got to that last stage. So I'm always very excited when we can have an author on who has got to that last stage, not only got it published, their book published, but maybe even done that whole drill several times. Our next guest is Dr. Walker Zupp, author of Fibber. Welcome, Walker.
Hello, great to be here.
Now, Dr. Zupp, are you a PhD?
I am a PhD. Yeah, I got a PhD in creative writing.
And where was that from?
That was from the University of Exeter, but I was at the Penryn campus in Cornwall, so they've got two campuses. So I was down at Land's End.
Nice, nice. Now, and your undergrad was where?
My undergrad was up at Lancaster University, up in the northwest of England, and so I started out there and then progressively made my way down.
Now, where are you from originally?
A lot of people think I'm American or Irish or Canadian. I'm not any of those things. I'm actually from Bermuda.
Bermuda.
Which is a British territory. My dad was American. He was German-American. But a lot of people in Bermuda seem to have my accent, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'd almost say you have no accent at all. So I'm sure people from UK think you're American. You sound very American, but you have a few little things in there that tip you off there.
Exactly.
By the way, I'm going to put the cover of your book on the screen so our viewers can see it. It's called Fibber, and it is, I don't know how you describe it. It's from the future. Is it dystopian?
Yeah, you can think of it as dystopian. I sometimes like to think of it as a forgotten history. The time is not made explicit in the novel, which I always enjoy because it makes the novel more timeless. Yeah.
Now, by the way, the statue, is that a real thing?
No, it's not a real thing, thank God. No, it was something that the designer Rick came up with. He did a very good job.
And this it's a structure, really. It's maybe a prison?
The book is about a big refugee camp called the Tectum. And it's a giant stone head, which is, as you can see on the cover. But it was the book is influenced by a Soviet novel called Koltova, or The Foundation Pit by Andrei Platonov, which I read when I was up at Lancaster, and it really stuck with me, the whole concept, because it's about a town which is told to dig a foundation pit, turns out to be a mass grave. Mm-hmm. And I thought I could play with that sort of idea, but make it a bit bigger in scale and more dystopian. And that's where the giant head comes from. Also, I love Zardoz, which is the John Borman movie, which has the giant stone head and Sean Connery running around in a red nappy. So lots of different influences going on there.
Now, you borrow from other literature throughout the book. Is that correct? I think Othello? Yep. No. Was it Othello? They actually were staging a play? It was Othello.
Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah, there's a circus which comprises some of the refugees. They're in there. They're called the Metaphysical Circus, and they are ordered by Fibber to put on a play so that people don't get in trouble. Entertain the people, otherwise they're going to get in trouble. So they decide to put on Othello, and it turns out to be the worst staging of the play ever.
Tell our viewers who Fibber is.
Yeah, so Fibber is a poet, and he's not a very good poet. He is enjoying a publication party at his uncle's house for an illegal publication, and he gets arrested. But instead of throwing him in prison, they decide to really punish him and make him a bureaucrat. So they put him in charge of this refugee camp. Or is it?
Or is it?
Or is it? Yeah, and that's the whole twist at the center of the novel.
I had assumed that Fibber was like the rest of us in the arts, that we end up having to get a regular old job anyway.
Yes, exactly.
And he goes into the civil service, I guess. Now, where can people get this book?
Yeah, well, people can get this book on Amazon, or if they don't like using Amazon, some people don't, you can get it on Barnes & Noble too.
Okay, yeah, Barnes & Noble or Amazon, yeah. And it's different. There's an Amazon UK and an Amazon United States, and there's one in Canada. So I guess you could go to any of those, wherever our viewers are watching from, and you can find it there. I'm going to ask you about some other books you've written. Anything else you want to say about Fibber before we leave that topic?
No, I just think I'm very happy with how the book turned out. It's been a long journey, and it's the shortest book I've written, and I also think it's the most readable.
Readable,
It's
okay.
not too difficult to read, so that's a good thing in its favor. Anyway.
Now, I have two other books here. Was one of them your first book?
Yeah, Martha was my first
Martha.
book.
Here's the
and,
cover, by the way, for our viewers.
Thank you.
And
sorry?
I didn't study up on that one at all. What can you tell us about Martha?
Well, Martha was, so the first novel I wrote it for my master's degree at Lancaster, and I wrote it in a year, and I got a publishing contract whilst I was still doing my degree, which is kind of cool. But so it's basically about, it was very influenced by Philip K. Dick, and it's a couple strands in there. There's a strand with the police using hallucinogenic cannabis so they can jump into people's dreams and chase criminals, which is bizarre. But then there was also the more interesting stuff for me, which was a future conservative party who forces their prime minister to have a sex change because they think it will help them win the next election. So there's lots of stuff in that book.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow American politics, but one party or another would do almost anything to win right now. Yes. So that might be
it's
fitting.
Not that far fetched.
Now, this other book, I cannot say the title of.
Nakadai.
Nakadai. We even rehearsed it before we came on the air, and I still didn't have it. Tell us about that one.
Sure. Well, Nakadai was written for my doctorate. So when you do a PhD in creative writing, half of it is a literary production of some significance, like a novel or a collection of poems, and the other half is an essay explaining how you wrote it, what your influences are. So I wrote Nakadai for my PhD, and Nakadai is based on the life of the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, except in my book I've turned him into a Japanese man in the future. And he makes a Faustian pact with an intergalactic being. So it's basically a retelling of Faust, but amidst all that, it's basically a satire of British universities. And I think at heart I am mostly a satirical writer, someone like a Kurt Vonnegut.
That's fun. Yeah, well, I think that I'm going to put this one back up, Fibber. I'm going to read Fibber first. By the way, it just came out?
Yeah, it came out on the 1st of February, so it's fresh off the press.
Yeah. I read the little blurb on it, and I said, I'm going to read this book. And I'm a guy who only reads nonfiction, so it's a big step for me. But you did say it'd be an easy read, and I'll get through it in no time. What else do you want our viewers to know about you or your books?
Well, at the moment, let's see, some new projects coming up. At the moment, I've got 2 projects. Because it's kind of weird when you get into the habit of publishing books, by the time your book has come out, you're already knee-deep into another project, yeah. So it's very odd. So I just finished writing a book which is my longest book, and it's called, at the moment, it's called Morocconomics, and it's all about Morocco in the future, and it's been taken over by the Sicilian mafia, which are running it at a profit, yeah. So to speak. So I'm sending that out to publishers and agents. And on the other hand, I'm doing research for a book right now, which is a partial retelling of the life of St. Paul, which has always interested me. Yeah. So that's the stuff that's going on for me right now. Keep me nice and busy.
Now, I know we're running past time, but you're fascinating, so I'm going to ask you a quick question or two. You're one of the probably few authors we have on our show who was trained. You trained to be an author, and you did it, and you got books out. Can you tell us your process? Do you have, sit down every day at 7 a.m. and start writing? Do you have a strict process?
Yeah, well, when I was teaching creative writing, I always say the best thing you can do is try to write every day, and you need to have an amount. Whether it's 1,000 words or 200 words or 300 words, whatever you can do that day, as long as you try and do it every day. Right. It's like carpentry. You're going to get better at it the more you do it.
The more you do it, that's right.
That's my process.
Yeah. I like to study books as I'm reading them to see how they structure the sentences. I've learned a lot about not ending my sentences and prepositions and things like that just by studying other authors. And also, I find the more I write, the more it improves. So that's good advice. Thank you. Well, we really appreciate you coming. What time is it there, by the way?
It is 12 past 6 at night.
Oh, at night. Okay, that's not bad then.
That's fine.
I meant to tell you before we came on there, we're having tremendous storms here in California, and so we go off the air. If the power goes out or something, that would be the end. But appreciate you calling us all the way from somewhere in the United Kingdom. Where again?
I'm in Cornwall. It was
Cornwall.
my pleasure.
I'll go look at the map right after this. Thank you, Walter Zupp. I'm going to leave this picture up as we go off the air and get ready for our next author. So please, to our viewers, don't touch that mouse. We'll be right back.